Day number 18, John 20, verses 1 through 10. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciple started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and looked in at the strips of linen laying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter came along behind him and went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen laying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went inside. He saw and believed. They still did not understand the scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to where they were staying. Now Mary stood outside the tomb, crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her. On the evening of the first day of the week, when the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. After what they did to the Bulldogs, it's a wonder the Tech football team didn't leave the team buses in Athens and run back to campus. On Saturday, November 29, 2008, Paul Johnson's Yellow Jackets ran over, under, around, and through the hapless Georgia defense and defeated the Dogs 45-42. The offense that couldn't possibly work at a major college level rolled up 409 yards on the ground, including an unbelievable 201-1 edge in the third quarter. Redshirt freshman Roddy Jones romped for 214 yards, while Jonathan Dyer galloped for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns on 20 carries. Jones set a school record by averaging 16.4 yards per carry on only 13 rushes. With his team trailing 28-12 at halftime, Johnson told the Jackets, "Hey, it's 60 minutes. Anybody who came over here and didn't think it's going to be that kind of game, don't come back out." The first coach in Tech history to win 9 games his first season reminded his team they got the ball to start the second half and would go down the field and score. "I didn't know it'd be on one play," Johnson said, but it was. On Tech's first snap of the half, Dyer went 60 yards for a touchdown. As Jackets quarterback Josh Nesbitt put it, Dyer's run opened up everything. Tech scored 3 touchdowns in less than 7 minutes and added a field goal for a 38-28 lead. Even after Georgia closed to 38-35, the Jacket running game couldn't be stopped. Jones went 54 yards for the game-winning touchdown, only 6 plays after Georgia had scored. The Jackets simply ran wild, hitting the ground running. Every morning, that's what you do as you leave the house and re-enter the rat race. You run errands, you run through a presentation, you give someone a run for his money. You always want to be in the running and never run out and never run of the mill. You're always running towards something, such as your goals, or away from something, such as your past. Many of us spend much of our lives full-heartedly attempting to run away from God, the purposes He has for us, and the blessing He is waiting to pour out. No matter how hard or how far you run, though, you can never outrun yourself or God. God keeps pace with you, calling you in the short run to take care of the long run by falling to your knees and running for your life to Jesus. By falling to your knees, you run all the way to glory. You can't do that with this offense. It's 3 yards and a cloud of dust, right? A sarcastic Paul Johnson after 409 rushing yards against UGA. You can run all the way to eternity by going to your knees.